What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. This is Ryan, and I'm just going to be giving you a loosely scripted channel update about what I have been doing, what I'm going to do with the channel, and my professional career and stuff like that. It's been a long time since I've made a video, and it's been quite a while since I have done a live stream as well, so I just wanted to talk about that. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I'm still pretty active in the developer community, and I'll talk some more about that later. But yeah, as far as YouTube is concerned, I haven't really spent a lot of time with it. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to jump into what I'm doing right now and why I'm not really spending much time working on YouTube videos. So, as many of you who follow this channel may know, I was able to get a job as a professional Android developer full time in April of last year. I can say that now because today is January 2nd of 2023, and I'm happy to say I'm still working at that job. It's been a crazy experience working at a sort of early to mid, I would say earlier stage startup and helping a team to roll out a new product and deliver it. Um, there's a whole bunch I could say about that experience, but the main thing is it's just been a huge learning experience. I've had the chance to work in a distributed remote team, work with back end teams, front end teams, other front end teams, design teams, product teams, and it's just a totally different experience from being like an individual Android developer or individual product developer. So it's been really great overall, and I've learned a lot. And I'm for the foreseeable future, I will be continuing to be a professional Android developer. Um, that's pretty much the main reason why I haven't been able to do as many live streams or focus on videos. The reality of the situation is that I know there are some people out there who have a lot more energy and focus than I do, and they're able to, work a really busy job and constantly create new content or constantly do open source contributions. I'm thinking of Jae Woong for example, Sky Doves on GitHub. That guy's a machine. But I'm just not really one of those people. I would say I work, harder than the average person, but for me, the average person doesn't really work hard at all. So being a professional developer really has taken up a ton of my time. And my general sort of feeling or philosophy is that I can generally only do two things well continuously at a time. And for me, one of those things has been being a professional Android developer and trying to be good at my job. And then the other thing has been really working on my personal health and fitness, which I've been working on a lot. So as far as like working on projects on the side for coding or working on videos on the side, I just don't really have the energy to do it. A lot of people think it's easy to make YouTube tutorials, but if you want to do well at it, you basically have to treat it like a full-time job. And I think that's sort of one of the primary reasons why I'm not making videos right now is it takes a lot of time and effort to plan good content. And the truth is that although I love doing the live streams and I didn't really care that they didn't get a ton of viewership, as far as creating the tutorials and stuff like that, especially creating Android specific content, there's just not really any sort of good return for me on doing that. There are people out there who do a really great job with modern Android tutorials. Philip Lackner, for example, his production quality and quality of the videos he makes is exceptional. So for me to sort of try and compete with someone like that, it's just not really going to happen. And I wish him well. So that's kind of the main reason why I haven't been doing video content is just for the foreseeable future, I'm not really going to be doing any Android specific content anymore. I may do like some sort of full app tutorials in the future or something like that, but it's going to be pretty different from what you've seen in this channel. Now, what have I been doing in terms of content creation? I'll probably list them down in the description box below, but I have been doing quite a bit of writing lately. I've published a number of articles both on my Medium and also to Free Code Camp. And it's been stuff that I've wanted to talk about for years, but kind of, I don't know, I guess what it is that now that I've actually branched out and played around with various programming languages, like Python, for example, I have a better sort of understanding of other programming languages and platforms. Recently in my job, I had to basically spend a month being a Swift developer on iOS, so I have more experiences and a better perspective on programming outside of just the Android wheelhouse. And for that reason, I've been feeling a lot more comfortable talking about things which are more language agnostic. So, programming concepts which aren't necessarily just directed towards Android developers, but things that can help sort of anyone who writes code in sort of almost any programming language. So, I'm doing a lot of content. Like I say, I'll list links down in the description box below if you want to go and check that stuff out. But that's a lot more what I want to be focusing on, and I'll get to sort of the videos I want to make in a little bit. So yeah, other than that, I'm going to continue writing. I will obviously be continuing to work as a professional Android developer, and I'm hopeful to be able to help out with the next Android Worldwide conference. I was planning, I was scheduled to be a host during that the most recent one, which was in, I want to say November or February. It's all a blur, but the most recent Android Worldwide, I was actually supposed to host, I think, the last three talks, but I had just major issues with my internet service provider. I've switched over to a different internet service provider, which is better, but I have to say, like, for a developed country, Canada has the just the worst internet infrastructure I've ever dealt with in my life. And we basically have like two companies that pretty much control all of the infrastructure. So, yeah, anyways, I won't ramble about that too much, but I think my internet is fixed, and hopefully I'll be able to help out with Android Worldwide. Not planning to do a talk. I did have one sort of planned, but it's going to be a tricky one. You can actually see some code on my screen here, which is sort of my attempts at reverse engineering coroutines. Hopefully in the next Android Worldwide, after, sort of the one that's coming up, I think in January, I'll be able to do a better talk. But yeah, I'll talk more about that later. So yeah, those are kind of my short-term plans. Also, big personal announcement, I will be moving back to British Columbia, which is, of course, the province in Canada that I grew up in. I've been living in Alberta for coming up to 2 years now, mostly in Calgary. And while there are definitely some parts of living in Alberta which I do like, the weather is not one of them. To give you a great example, my partner and I returned from a vacation, not really, well, kind of a vacation, but visiting family in Merida in Mexico. And when we landed in Calgary, we were absolutely ecstatic to hear that it was only minus 10 degrees Celsius outside. Because before we left, the average temperature was about minus 27 degrees Celsius. So, yeah, when you live in the prairies, you get to enjoy that for nearly 6 months of the year. And I'm kind of sick of it. So, I'm really excited to be moving back to British Columbia. So, that will probably happen in July. My girlfriend was accepted. Come on, Rain, you can use your words here. She was accepted into a fellowship program for her medical residency, and that program is in BC. So yeah, basically that's what's happening there. I'll ramble more about that when we're closer. And then next thing I wanted to talk about is just future plans for the channel. I will do live Q&As in some format in the future. I'm not going to give an exact date because I know better than to do that. But yeah, I'm just going to be looking at different options. I may actually be looking at Twitter Spaces because the truth is that's where most of the people that I regularly interact with are on. However, with that being said, there has been some hiccups with Twitter Spaces lately, so we'll just see how that goes. I may restart on YouTube. I was that's what I'm looking for. I wasn't very happy with doing my live streams on YouTube for the main reason that there's just almost zero exposure, but it's better than nothing. And I had experimented with doing them on Twitch a little bit. To be honest, I'm not sure I like Twitch as a format for live Q&A. I feel like for live coding, if I do live coding again, it'll almost certainly be on Twitch, but in terms of the live Q&A, didn't enjoy that very much. We'll see. And then the other thing, I will eventually start making tutorials, but they're most likely going to be on language agnostic content. So things that can make you a better developer, but aren't necessarily going to be ramming Android down your throat. At least that's what I hope. And then the last thing I want to say is just sort of a personal bit of encouragement from me. And this is going to come sort of straight from the heart. I started my journey in programming in 2014, and my sort of YouTube journey in 2016. And I didn't really have the kind of success that some other people have had in either of those fields. I certainly didn't get it quickly. It was a grind of nearly 8 years before I was able to get a job as a professional Android developer. Now, I wasn't necessarily trying to get a job as a professional Android developer during those 8 years, but even when I switched over to trying to do that, it was a very long job hunting process. I don't know, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was something like a 16-month process or something like that from when I started trying to get a job in a company that I actually wanted to work for to actually getting a job. So it's been a long process, and what I wanted to say is to just think back to my younger self, someone who's like working, in a kitchen or mopping floors or swinging a hammer or something like that while learning to code and applying to jobs and getting rejected. If you're, in that kind of a situation, what I want to say to you is great job. Keep doing it. Keep putting the effort forth. And keep collecting those rejections and keep, all those little things that people say to you. Oh, you should have went to school, or maybe you're in school. You should have did this. You should have did that. You could become a very good cook. Follow your own path and keep putting forth the best effort you can. And what I want to emphasize here is don't try to be perfect. You might be following people who appear to be perfect and appear to just be grinding, 100% of the time. And the truth is that no one is grinding 100% of the time. There are some exceptional people out there who, do work really, really hard and put the time in. And I am envious of those people. But the majority of the people who you follow really don't work as hard as you think they do. And it can set us up for this expectation that we're here and they're up here and we're just never going to catch up. And what I want to say is whatever is the best effort you can put forward on a day-to-day basis, you've got to be content with that. You've got to say that this is good enough. The only way to guarantee failure is to quit. So many times in my journey, I wanted to quit. 8 years of grinding and struggling and being paid like minimum wage doing random crappy jobs. 8 years of that. And I have zero regrets. Because now, I have a partner who I love very much. I'm making a wage which I'm very happy with. And all of that struggle, all of those days of like working double shifts, washing dishes, and trying to carve out 2 hours a day to study program, all that made me a much stronger person. And I don't mean physically stronger, I mean mentally stronger. It was all worth it. And going through those trials and issues now, when I meet people who have it easy, I don't make fun of them. I don't wish that they had a more difficult time than I did. But what I see is I have something they don't, which is the ability to conquer adversity. the ability to absorb stress, and the ability to not give up when it gets really hard. So this is my New Year's message for you. If you've listened this far, sorry, but thank you. And I wish you a happy New Year.